Northern Gateway was a real opportunity to get Canadian energy into Asian markets.
But it lost in the courts.
No. Justin Trudeau vetoed that.
No, it lost in the courts
Gateway
decided, and then Trudeau decided not to fight it. He didn't appeal the decision from the court.
Well, you say tomato, I say tomato.
Vassy, the liberal blow-up doll Kapelos, just can't help herself. Do you guys think that she pushes back harder against conservatives during interviews compared to liberals? The way she has a rebuttal for everything Andrew Scheer says makes it seem like she's on the Liberal Party payroll. Andrew calmly educates her on where our economy is headed if Carney continues down the road that he's on. He talks about how they just continue to steal conservative ideas and they're not even making good on them anyway. And Vassy doesn't really like the pushback. I guess a $100 billion deficit doesn't seem so bad to these liberal hammerheads. The contrast between the way a conservative conducts themselves during interviews like this versus a liberal is quite telling. Liberals get all flustered and blame right-wing rhetoric, whereas conservatives plainly state facts. And facts are a liberal's kryptonite. Make sure you leave a like on the video to help me in the algorithm. Consider subscribing. It's totally free, unlike our country.
Do you see, from the suite of policies and pitches that they're making so far, something you can identify for Canadians tonight you would work with them on?
Mm-hmm. Well, we're hopeful that they're serious. We saw in the last Parliament the Liberals didn't operate this way. They were happy to have the House of Commons stalled rather than hand over documents relating to one of their scandals. So maybe this is a legitimate new chapter in that. But look, it's quite clear that Liberals had to steal conservative ideas to get elected. They had to basically concede that conservatives were right about the carbon tax, about easy bail causing crime waves, and about many other conservative policies. So that's why we supported things like our idea to remove the GST off of housing. That's why we will support policies that they lift from our platform. Of course, we would support that. What we are on the alert for is when they graft their own tired policies that have been proven not to work onto those pieces of legislation, then it is our job to highlight that for Canadians and to give it all the due diligence that Canadians expect when they elect a minority parliament like this.
It's not like you're ruling out keeping them in power for a bit longer if there are pieces of legislation?
Well, I wouldn't describe it as keeping them in power. I think I would describe it as supporting ideas that we've already committed to. You touched on a couple of files there. So on tax relief, of course, we were the ones for a decade calling for an elimination of the carbon tax. That is absolutely something that conservatives were fighting for, and we supported that. Removing the GST off of new home construction was a conservative idea. Liberals voted against that when Pierre Poilievre proposed it. We supported that, and we'll support other things that lower the tax burden. Now, when it comes to building bureaucracies, which is what the Liberal plan is morphing into, they announced $13 billion to build a bureaucratic structure rather than getting out of the way of new home construction. Well, those are things that we can't support. We don't believe that Canadians, unlike the Liberals, we believe that Canadians pay enough in taxes. We believe the government spends far more than it should. The deficit numbers are already eye-watering, and we're hearing rumors that they could be even bigger than Justin Trudeau's last deficit. But we will call out and highlight for Canadians the bad Liberal policies that are going to increase costs, drive up inflation, or put pressure on taxes going up as well.
Why are you reflexively against a deficit that grows? Like, doesn't it add up?
He wrote his campaign platform knowing that Trump's tariffs were in effect. He budgeted that out, and he committed in his platform a much lower deficit number than what they're now talking about. He committed to capping spending growth, even in the throne speech, which took place months after Trump became president and a full month after the election campaign. So I believe it's fair to hold Mark Carney to the promises on which he got elected. When the government has to borrow more money, when it's borrowing billions of money, that means it's gobbling up money out of the economy. They are now competing with everyone else who has to borrow money. They're going to compete with you when you renew your mortgage or when you get a mortgage, when you negotiate a line of credit, when businesses go out and try to borrow to invest in the economy. Now they have to compete with the government. So that puts massive pressure on interest rates. It also means taxes at some point, either through the hidden inflationary tax, which we already see inflation going up, or with outright tax hikes, which Liberals have also done in the past. So it's not just that we have this allergic reaction to deficits. There's deep economic principles that conservatives fight for.
Are they, as a result, supposed to just slash and cut? Because I don't know if Canadians have an appetite for that.
How about not invent new spending? You know, the $13 billion in a new housing bureaucracy rather than just getting the government out of the way of new home construction. Massive increase in consultants. How about the fact that we're talking about business contraction in the economy, the billions of dollars that they've chased away with their anti-energy development laws. So
those are going away.
No.
It seems like they're getting rid of half of those. Yeah.
They've refused to repeal the No More Pipelines bill. They've refused to repeal the shipping ban, which basically means only Canadian energy cannot be shipped off our western coast. Other countries' energy can go up and down the coast. Only Canadians can. They've refused to repeal the impact assessment regime that they built, which was designed to get to a no. They vetoed Northern Gateway. They layered on all kinds of rules and regulations on the energy sector. And as a result, tens of billions of dollars have fled into other countries. So between the spending that's being increased,
we would still be talking about contraction given our dependence on the States.
We would have been able to diversify. Northern Gateway would have helped us diversify off of the American economy. Trudeau canceled that. Carney cheered for that. He cheered on and applauded Justin Trudeau for doing that. So Canada, after 10 years of Liberal government, is more dependent on the United States for our exports.
It's actually the same. It's 75% of our exports then, 75% of our exports now.
No, but when you consider what it could have been, I mean, Northern Gateway was a real opportunity to get Canadian energy into Asian markets.
But it lost in the courts.
No. Justin Trudeau vetoed that.
It lost in the courts
Gateway
decided, and then Trudeau decided not to fight it. He didn't appeal the decision from the court.
Well, you say tomato, I say tomato. Justin Trudeau had the ability to see that pipeline through. He did not want it. I remember his speech when he explained the reason why he did not want Northern Gateway to proceed, despite the fact that there were multiple partnerships agreements signed by First Nations communities along the way, despite the fact it would have opened up Asian markets. He also stacked the deck against Energy East, which would have taken Western Canadian energy into Eastern Canadian markets, displacing foreign oil. So every way you look at it, the Carney-Trudeau Liberals, the policies that Mark Carney has kept in place, was designed to leave our energy in the ground. That is something that has made Canada's economy weaker and meant that the government has less fiscal capacity to respond to the United States.
My sense is, though, that what Carney has said and even started to do is conceding what you just said, basically. I don't see him doing anything but trying to delineate his government. I'll tell you why, because he's saying that the Conservatives were right, is my takeaway, because he's saying we're going to get rid of the emissions cap, for example.
Has he said that?
Well,
has he made the commitment that he's going to get rid of the
Well, he said to me he was open to it.
Okay.
Point blank, a number of months ago.
This is the problem with Liberals.
Let me finish. C5 is also meant to, on a case-by-case basis, move around those pieces of legislation. So if new LNG development or a new pipeline requires that the impact assessment not be used or the tanker ban not be in place, C5 is supposed to override that, give the cabinet the ability to override that. If they got rid of everything, we'd have no climate plan.
No, that's not true at all. I disagree. First of all, Mark Carney is proving out to be just another Liberal. One day, maybe he might be open to it. He's been Prime Minister now for 6 months. He promised to move at unimaginable speeds, and nothing really has gotten done. His major project list is 5 projects that were all either already approved or in some cases already underway. I mean,
not LNG Canada. The investor hasn't even made a decision on that yet.
What he's done with C5 is he's given himself the power to use what's called selective enforcement. That means instead of the market deciding, instead of investors deciding, yes, this project, yes, that project, no, that project, or the market deciding, Mark Carney is going to decide when the rules apply and when they don't apply. It's very dangerous. We want to live in a country where the market decides things. He wants to live in a country where he gets to decide things. And the difference there is...
Doesn't government have to send a message?
No.
That we're open for business.
No, but you send that message by setting up the goalposts and fixing them in one spot. And what we saw with this Liberal government over 10 years, that the goalposts kept moving and back and forth and side to side. What Mark Carney is telling some businesses, some selective companies, that, hey, you don't even have to try to kick the ball at all. And the difference in that is instead of pleasing the market, now companies are going to have to please politicians. Instead of letting the market decide, politicians are going to decide. That is dangerous. Every country that's ever tried has gone down that road, where politicians get to decide when the rules apply and when they don't, leads to corruption, leads to lack of investor confidence, and it leads to companies moving out of those countries.
Even in a time of crisis, though, and I do take that point, but I know that your party has constantly cited this LNG terminal on the water in Germany as evidence of how fast things can get built. Germany essentially brought in their own C5 to override their own environmental laws in order to get that thing built, and it worked.
But why just for one company? Why not have an accelerated approvals process based on fixed criteria for everyone?
Vassy. Sometimes I just wish she would lead with her first thought, because I can tell by the look on her face that deep down inside she agrees fully with Andrew Scheer. Mark Carney doesn't have a substantial plan to move Canada forward. Creating huge deficits, claiming that it's okay to have tariffs because they're so low, while window shopping in Europe, and acting like everything is hunky-dory. He's just pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. And I'm glad the Conservatives are leading with the idea of broken promises, because that's currently the legacy that Mark Carney is building. But yet, we Canadians are the ones that have to pay the price for it.